Jason Ellk, thanks for your time here. You traveled all the way from South Africa to come to Web 2.0 Expo here to New York. You are actually working on a social media platform in South Africa which is called Zupi.com. Please give us some background information, first of all about who you are and then about the platform, please.
Okay, well, Zupi is South Africa's social media community. It's created to allow users in South Africa and Africa specifically to consolidate all their media. Traditionally, what users in South Africa were doing is uploading videos to YouTube and photos to Flickr and blogs to Blogger or WordPress. And what we wanted to do was bring all of it together and allow them to create one central hub of content where they could send one link out to families or friends, one URL for their profile, and that was really fast because Zupi is hosted locally in South Africa. It's one of the only services to do so. It allows really fast access to multimedia that traditionally Africans haven't been able to have because they've had to access international sites like YouTube and Facebook and Flickr and the rest. So Zupi was created to allow Africans to bring it all together and create a living archive really of what's important to them. So they're adding photos all the time and videos all the time, and so ultimately in 10 years or so we'll be able to look back and have endless amounts of media archived on the African continent's living history.
So could you please give us an idea about the infrastructure in South Africa? What is about the broadband and all these kind of things you need to actually to run such a service?
Yeah, well, traditionally, as I said, services like ours in South Africa have really been hosted overseas. It is just much cheaper. The amount of bandwidth that you get is a lot more for a lot less. But the payoff is that South Africans then have to use their international bandwidth capacity. And what happens in South Africa and in the rest of Africa is that you have very low bandwidth for your monthly ADSL account, for example. So you'll get 3 gigs as a standard as part of your account, and you'll also only get a maximum speed, and South Africa is one of the fastest countries in Africa. You only have a maximum speed of 1 meg line, up to 4 megs occasionally, but the official version is a 1 meg line. So what that means is not only is your service very slow outside of South Africa, but it's also limited. It's limited to that 3 gigs. So which is why I was saying that local hosting is so important, because it means that if a user in South Africa has gone beyond that initial very small cap, they're still able to surf for another 70 gigs and even more at a lot cheaper rate and at a lot faster rate than they can internationally. So South Africa and Africa, are still emerging markets. The bandwidth is still extremely expensive. A lot of it has to do with cabling and undersea access to international pipes and things like that. So, it's getting there. We've only just recently had our second national telecoms operator come into the country. Traditionally, we've had Telkom as a monopoly since South Africa's independence many years ago. So the market's getting healthier, price options are coming in, and things are getting faster, but it takes a long time. And there are only a couple of million people who have ADSL access in South Africa. 90% of the country have mobile access only.
So who's your audience? Who are you targeting at, and what kind of content are they uploading? What is on your platform? What can we find there?
Well, Zupi has 28 different channels of content. Our users upload everything from wildlife and nature. Some of them are living in pretty rural areas. They're getting to see, animals. But also it's when people are visiting things like the Kruger National Park and that. And often that's when we have some of the international users coming in because they've been to South Africa, they've been up Table Mountain, they've been out to Seal Island and these kinds of things. So they come back to Zupi to upload their content into our travel channel, for example. But also we have many other channels ranging from nightlife and clubs right through to technology and many others. So our audience really comprises mostly of South Africans and Africans who have access to some kind of sharing device, whether that's a PC, ideally, or a mobile phone. Because Zupi has Java applications and an application in partnership with Nokia, users can upload straight from their phone and view limited content as well.
So how many people would you say in a percentage have access to the internet in South Africa?
Well, if you take on average a population of around 48 million, and if you take the numbers as they've been reported around 2 million, it's 2 million out of 48 million have access to a PC and the internet. And of those, the percentage that have access to the most expensive access, which is the 1 meg line, is probably minuscule. And again, you have to emphasize that even that 1 meg line by broadband standards across the world is extremely limited.
So what are your plans and what is your business model behind Supi?
Okay, well, our plans include some pretty radical and swift improvements to our service. We've just recently gone local, which I've been talking about. We've recently had investment from Vodacom, which is South Africa's leading cellular network. They're part of Vodafone Group worldwide. They've seen the value in supporting social media growth within Africa. And so our next step after launching our website is going to be to launch into Africa. We're looking at Ghana, we're looking at Kenya, we're looking at Nigeria, and helping more communities do what we've done in South Africa. Sorry, you had a second question. Was that it?
Yeah, that was it. I was going to ask you, for the last question, you came here to New York all the way. What are your expectations here? And I mean, it's the second day today. What are your first impressions?
Well, for a long time, we've had to really grow on our own in isolation in a pod, really. South Africa has a fantastic technology community, a new media community. We run things called 27 dinners where people from the new media industry get together, share ideas. But to a large extent, to play on a global level, we've had to really look outside of South Africa and see what the bigger guys in the playing field are doing. But it's one thing to read blogs and look at sites and try and measure for yourself. And it's another entirely when you're in the same room with the people who are coming from companies like Yahoo, like Google, Flickr, 37 Signals. These are people who've defined the future of the web and continue to do so. So for us to be in that same room, hearing their thinking and their thoughts and asking questions is incredibly valuable for two reasons. The first is it allows us to learn. We never stop learning. We learn from our users all the time. We learn from other sites, and now we're learning again directly from these guys. But secondly, also to measure ourselves against that. In a lot of cases, we've been to sessions this morning, I'm happy to say, where we've ticked some boxes. We're very happy with the progress we're making and how our strategy is forming around what they've said. But we've also highlighted some things that we've really overlooked. So it's incredibly valuable. Any African startup has to come to one of these events to see what the world is doing out there, because it is so much bigger than South Africa. But it's an incredible experience. We're loving it.
Did you meet any other people from Africa, South Africa here yet?
We actually haven't, to be honest. I heard an accent somewhere along the line, but they could be living in New York. But someone at the expo actually is a South African, Vinnie Lingham. He started a company called Synthesite, which is an online website building service. He's upstairs at the expo. We're about to go there again just now to try and find him. He also got some funding. And he's actually moved on to Silicon Valley. So he's one of the success stories from South Africa. So it can be done.
So all the best here in New York, and thanks for your time.
Thank you. Thanks so much.